The key lay heavy in my palm, a cold brass sentinel to a life I thought I knew. It wasn't the key to a forgotten safe or a secret compartment, but to the new security cameras I'd had installed throughout the mansion. A small, almost insignificant object, yet it hummed with a silent power, a promise of revelation. Yet Arthur Sterling, a man who had built an empire from nothing, who had navigated the treacherous waters of global finance with an iron will and an unyielding gaze, was now reduced to this, a voyeur in my own home, driven by a gnawing suspicion that had taken root deep within my aging heart. My wife Eleanor, 30 years my junior, a woman whose laughter still echoed through these opulent halls like a youthful melody, had become an enigma. Her beauty, once a source of immense pride, now felt like a veil, concealing something I couldn't quite grasp. The decision to install those cameras was not born of malice, but of a desperate, suffocating fear. A fear that the vibrant, passionate woman I had married was slipping away, or worse, had already slipped away into a world I was no longer a part of. It was a betrayal of trust, a violation of privacy, a dramatic sin in the quiet sanctity of our marriage. But what choice did I have when the alternative was to drown in a sea of unanswered questions, to be consumed by a silent, insidious doubt? The mansion, once a symbol of my success, now felt like a gilded cage, and I, its aging, bewildered occupant. Every creak of the floorboards, every whispered conversation, every late-night return became a potential clue, a fragment of a puzzle I was determined to solve. The cameras, discreetly placed, were my silent allies, my unblinking eyes in the shadows. They were meant to bring clarity, to dispel the shadows of suspicion, but I knew, even then, that they might also shatter the fragile peace I clung to. What secrets would they reveal? What truths would they lay bare? And would I, Arthur Sterling, a man accustomed to control, be able to bear the weight of what I might discover? This story, my story, is not one of grand adventures or daring exploits, but of a quiet internal war fought within the confines of my own home against an enemy I never expected to face. It's a testament to the fragility of trust, the corrosive power of doubt, and the devastating consequences of a love that perhaps was never truly equal. The key, still warm from my touch, seemed to pulse with an unspoken question. What would I see when I finally looked, and would I ever be able to unsee it? Welcome, dear listeners, to a space where stories unfold, where the complexities of human experience are laid bare, and where every narrative serves as a mirror reflecting the intricate dance of life. I am your host, and in this episode we delve into a tale that, while deeply personal, resonates with universal themes of trust, suspicion, and the often unseen currents that shape our relationships. Our aim here is not merely to entertain, but to provoke thought, to encourage introspection, and to offer a unique perspective on the challenges we all face in navigating the labyrinth of human connection. This channel is dedicated to bringing you narratives that are not only compelling, but also insightful. Stories that, like the one you are about to hear, offer valuable lessons and spark meaningful conversations. We believe in the power of storytelling to illuminate the human condition, to explore the depths of emotion, and to provide a platform for understanding the nuances of life's most profound moments. The story you are about to immerse yourselves in is a raw, unfiltered account of a man grappling with a profound personal crisis, a crisis that forced him to confront uncomfortable truths about his marriage, and ultimately about himself. It is a narrative that will take you on a journey through the opulent halls of a mansion, into the quiet corners of a troubled mind, and through the unsettling revelations brought forth by a desperate act of surveillance. As you listen, I invite you to consider the choices made, the emotions experienced, and the ultimate consequences that unfold. This episode promises to be a gripping exploration of betrayal and self-discovery, a narrative that will keep you on the edge of your seat, pondering the delicate balance between love and doubt. We are committed to delivering content that is not only engaging, but also adheres to the highest standards of integrity and respect. You will find no explicit scenes or gratuitous descriptions here. Our focus remains firmly on the narrative, the emotional journey of the characters, and the profound lessons that can be gleaned from their experiences. We believe that true impact comes from the power of the story itself, from the raw honesty of the emotions portrayed, and from the universal truths that emerge from the unfolding drama. So settle in, open your minds, and prepare to be captivated by a story that will challenge your perceptions and leave you with much to ponder. Before we dive deeper into Arthur Sterling's world, I kindly ask you to take a moment to subscribe to our channel, hit that like button, and leave a comment below telling us where you're tuning in from. And as the story progresses, I encourage you to share your thoughts on what you believe was the most tense or pivotal moment. Your engagement fuels our passion for bringing these stories to life, and your insights enrich our community. Thank you for being a part of our journey. Now let us begin. My name is Arthur Sterling, and for 75 years I have lived a life that most would envy. From humble beginnings, I clawed my way to the pinnacle of financial success, building Sterling Global Holdings into a titan of industry. My days were a symphony of high-stakes deals, strategic maneuvers, and the relentless pursuit of profit. My world was one of order, precision, and absolute control. I believed in tangible assets, in ironclad contracts, in the predictable logic of the market. My home, this sprawling mansion nestled in the exclusive hills overlooking the city, was a testament to that belief. Every antique, every painting, every meticulously manicured garden spoke of a life meticulously curated, a legacy forged through sheer will and unwavering discipline. My routine was as rigid as the steel girders of the skyscrapers I helped finance. Early mornings, a precise breakfast, hours in my home office, and evenings spent either entertaining or in quiet contemplation, often with a rare book in hand. My marriage to Eleanor 30 years ago had been a deviation from this calculated existence, a sudden intoxicating burst of color in a world of muted tones. She was vibrant, effervescent, a whirlwind of youth and passion that swept me off my feet. I, the aging titan, found myself captivated by her youthful energy, her infectious laughter, her unbridled zest for life. She brought a warmth into these grand, often sterile rooms that I hadn't realized was missing. Our life together, for many years, was a comfortable rhythm of shared dinners, quiet evenings, and the occasional lavish social event. I provided the stability, the security, the foundation upon which her vibrant spirit could flourish. She, in turn, brought a lightness, a joy, a sense of renewed purpose to my twilight years. We were, or so I believed, a perfectly balanced equation. Then subtle shifts began to occur, almost imperceptible at first, like the slow, creeping tide. Eleanor, once so eager to share the details of her day, became more reserved. Her phone, once left carelessly on tables, was now always within reach, often face down. Late-night calls, once rare, became more frequent, answered in hushed tones in the study or on the terrace. I dismissed them as business calls, social engagements, the natural ebb and flow of a younger woman's active life. But the seeds of doubt, once planted, began to sprout. One evening I found a receipt tucked into the pocket of her coat, a receipt from a small, unassuming cafe on the other side of town, a place she rarely frequented. It was for 2 coffees and 2 pastries, dated a Tuesday afternoon, a time when she usually attended her charity meetings. A minor detail easily explained away, yet it pricked at something within me. Another time I overheard a snippet of a conversation. A name, a casual mention of a friend she was meeting for lunch. Nothing overtly suspicious, but the way she quickly changed the subject, the slight flush on her cheeks, registered in my mind. These were micro-signals, almost imperceptible tremors in the otherwise stable ground of our marriage. I, Arthur Sterling, who had built an empire on recognizing patterns and anomalies, found myself cataloguing these small discrepancies, each one a tiny drop of acid on the polished surface of my certainty. The first of my 3 recurring locations, the study, became a silent witness to these shifts. Eleanor had always used it for her philanthropic work, her laptop open, papers spread across the mahogany desk. Now, I noticed the door was often closed, and when I entered, she would quickly minimize windows or close tabs. The scent of a different cologne, faint but distinct, occasionally lingered in the air, a scent that was not mine, nor any of the male staff. I dismissed it as a fleeting impression, a trick of my aging senses, but the memory persisted. The second location, the conservatory, with its lush greenery and abundant light, was where Eleanor often took her calls. I would sometimes see her there, pacing, her voice low, her back to the door. Once, I saw her quickly end a call as I approached, a fleeting look of something akin to panic in her eyes. She brushed it off as a difficult conversation with a charity donor, but the image of her startled expression remained etched in my mind. Finally, the third location, the master bedroom, once our sanctuary, began to feel subtly altered. Her side of the bed, once always warm from her presence, sometimes felt cool when I retired for the night, as if she had been elsewhere for a significant period before joining me. A small, delicate silver bracelet, one I had never seen before, appeared on her dresser, nestled amongst her usual jewelry. When I asked about it, she vaguely mentioned a gift from a friend, but her eyes darted away, a telltale sign of discomfort I had learned to recognize in the cutthroat world of business negotiations. These were the small, unsettling pieces of a puzzle I was beginning to assemble. Each instance, on its own, could be explained away, rationalized, dismissed. But together, they formed a mosaic of unease, a growing sense that something fundamental had shifted in our lives. The trigger, the event that finally pushed me to act, came on a rainy Tuesday evening. I had returned home earlier than expected from a last-minute board meeting, hoping to surprise Eleanor with her favorite takeout. As I approached the mansion, I saw a car, unfamiliar and sleek, parked discreetly a few houses down. Its engine was off, and the windows were tinted, but I could make out a silhouette in the driver's seat. As I pulled into my driveway, the car sped away, its tires spitting gravel. A coincidence, perhaps. But then, as I entered the house, I heard hushed voices from the study, Eleanor's voice and another deeper male voice. The door was ajar, and through the narrow gap, I saw them. Eleanor, her back to me, and a man, his face obscured by the angle, but his arm casually draped around her shoulder. They were laughing, a soft, intimate sound that pierced through me. My heart, accustomed to the steady rhythm of power and control, faltered. The takeout bag slipped from my grasp, scattering its contents across the polished marble floor. The sound, though slight, was enough. The voices ceased. The study door swung open, and Eleanor stood there, her eyes wide with a mixture of surprise and something else, something I couldn't quite name. The man was gone, vanished as if he had never been there. "Arthur, you're home early," she said, her voice a little too bright, a little too forced. The scent of that unfamiliar cologne, stronger now, hung in the air. In that moment, the scattered pieces of my unease coalesced into a chilling certainty. The casual mentions, the closed doors, the hurried phone calls, the strange car, the lingering scent, they all pointed to one inescapable conclusion. My world, my meticulously ordered world, had been irrevocably breached. The risk was no longer a vague suspicion. It was a tangible, undeniable presence in my home. I had to know, I had to see, and so the decision was made. The cameras, once a mere precaution, became an absolute necessity. The game, it seemed, had begun. The cameras, once a desperate measure, became my silent obsession. I spent hours in my private study, a room I had always considered my sanctuary, now transformed into a surveillance hub. The feeds from the study, the conservatory, and the master bedroom played on a loop, a silent, damning ballet of suspicion. My days, once filled with the clamor of the market, were now consumed by the quiet hum of the monitors, the subtle shifts in Eleanor's demeanor, the fleeting glances she exchanged with others. The first week was a slow burn of mounting anxiety. Eleanor continued her routine, seemingly oblivious to the unseen eyes, but I, armed with my new knowledge, saw everything through a different lens. The casual coffee dates, the charity meetings, the late-night phone calls, they all took on a sinister hue. I noticed her lingering in the study, her fingers hovering over her laptop, a nervous energy about her. One afternoon, the camera in the study captured her receiving a package, a small, unmarked box. She opened it with a furtive glance around the room, revealing a sleek, modern smartphone, not her usual model. She quickly tucked it away, a secret smile playing on her lips. This was my first tangible piece of evidence, a crack in the carefully constructed facade. My visits to the study became more frequent, my pretexts more elaborate. I would forget a document or claim to need a quiet space for a call. Each time I searched meticulously for that phone, for any clue. One evening, while Eleanor was out, I found it, hidden beneath a stack of old magazines. It was locked, of course, but the sheer act of finding it, of holding this illicit object, sent a jolt through me. It was a tangible contradiction, a lie in her pocket. The conservatory, once a place of serene beauty, now felt charged with a different kind of energy. I observed Eleanor there, often on the new phone, her voice a low murmur, her body language guarded. Once, I saw her trace patterns on the condensation of the glass, a nervous habit I recognized. The camera, positioned discreetly among the ferns, captured a fleeting image on her screen. A man's profile, blurred but undeniably male. It wasn't a clear shot, but it was enough to fuel the fire of my suspicion. The master bedroom, our most intimate space, became the most painful to watch. The camera, hidden in a decorative clock, revealed the subtle shifts in her routine. The way she would sometimes shower after returning home late, even if she had already showered that morning. The way she would change her perfume, a lighter, more floral scent replacing her usual, heavier fragrance. These were not direct proofs, but they were unsettling, painting a picture of a life lived in parallel, a life I was excluded from. The escalation continued. I began to notice a pattern in her absences. Every Tuesday afternoon, without fail, she would leave the house, returning hours later, always with a plausible, yet increasingly flimsy excuse. I cross-referenced these with the receipt I had found earlier, the one from the cafe. It was a consistent thread. I hired a private investigator, a discreet man named Miller, whose reputation for thoroughness was legendary. I provided him with the car model I had seen, the cafe address, and the recurring Tuesday pattern. I didn't tell him about the cameras. That was my secret, my ultimate weapon. Miller's reports began to trickle in, each one a fresh wound. He confirmed the cafe visits, always with the same man. He provided photographs, grainy, but clear enough to identify him. A man in his mid-40s, athletic build, dark hair, a confident smile. Not a business associate, not a charity donor, a lover. The name was David Thorne, a local architect recently divorced. The pieces were falling into place, forming a devastatingly clear picture. I felt a cold dread settle in my stomach, a sensation far worse than any financial loss I had ever endured. This was a loss of a different kind, a betrayal of the heart, a shattering of a trust I had held sacred. One evening, Eleanor returned home, her eyes sparkling, a faint scent of a different cologne clinging to her. She was humming a tune I didn't recognize. "Had a wonderful day at the gallery," she chirped, her voice light. "They're considering my proposal for the new wing." I looked at her, truly looked at her, and saw a stranger. The woman I had married, the woman I had loved, was a phantom, replaced by this vibrant, deceitful facade. "That's wonderful, dear," I managed, my voice a strained whisper. The subtext hung heavy in the air, unspoken, yet palpable. She knew I was watching, or at least she sensed my growing suspicion. Her eyes, usually so open, now held a flicker of something guarded, a subtle defensiveness. The dialogue between us became a dance of veiled meanings, a conversation where every word carried a double entendre. "You seem preoccupied, Arthur," she would say, her gaze too direct, too probing. "Is everything all right with Sterling Global?" And I would respond with vague assurances, my mind racing, trying to decipher the hidden questions in her tone. The mansion, once a haven, became a battleground of unspoken accusations and silent judgments. The midpoint, the undeniable proof that shattered any lingering doubt, came on a particularly bleak Wednesday. Miller's latest report arrived, a thick envelope filled with photographs. One, in particular, stood out. It was a clear, undeniable image of Eleanor and David Thorne, locked in an embrace, their lips meeting, outside a small, discreet apartment building on the outskirts of town. The address was provided. It was not a cafe, not a gallery, not a charity meeting. It was a love nest. The world tilted on its axis. The hum of the monitors in my study, the silent ballet of suspicion, suddenly roared into a deafening crescendo of pain and rage. This was it, the incontestable proof, the twist I had dreaded, yet desperately sought. My wife, my Eleanor, was having an affair. The image burned into my mind, a searing brand of betrayal. I felt a profound sense of foolishness, of being played for a fool. All the subtle signs, the evasions, the lies, they coalesced into this single devastating truth. My understanding of our conflict, of our marriage, was irrevocably altered. It wasn't a misunderstanding or a miscommunication. It was a deliberate act of deception. Eleanor, sensing the shift in my demeanor, became more brazen. Her late nights extended, her excuses grew thinner. She began to challenge my questions, her voice laced with a newfound defiance. "You're imagining things, Arthur," she'd snap, her eyes flashing. "You're an old man, you're paranoid." Her reaction was not one of remorse, but of aggression, an attempt to deflect and gaslight. She was advancing her plan, pushing the boundaries, testing my resolve. But I was no longer the bewildered old man. The proof had hardened me, sharpened my focus. I began to assemble my war table. I contacted my most trusted lawyer, a formidable woman named Sarah Jenkins, known for her discretion and her ruthless efficiency. I laid out the evidence, the photographs, the reports, the timeline. She listened, her expression unreadable, occasionally interjecting with sharp, incisive questions. "We have a strong case, Arthur," she concluded, her voice calm and steady. "But we need to consider your objectives. What do you want from this?" I wanted justice. I wanted clarity. I wanted to reclaim my dignity. My strategy began to form, a meticulously planned confrontation designed to expose the truth without resorting to public spectacle. Sarah advised me on the legal ramifications, the financial implications, the best course of action to protect my assets and my reputation. My plan B, if the confrontation failed, was already being drafted. A swift, decisive divorce, with all the evidence laid bare. The countdown to the final confrontation had begun. Sarah suggested a date, next Monday, during Eleanor's usual Tuesday afternoon charity meeting. It would be a controlled environment in my study, with Sarah present. The limit condition was clear: the truth and nothing but the truth. The stage was set for the final act, a confrontation that would either salvage what little remained of my marriage or shatter it beyond repair. I felt a strange mix of dread and grim determination. The game was almost over, and I was ready to play my final hand. The Monday arrived, cloaked in a deceptive calm. Eleanor, oblivious to the storm brewing, left for her supposed charity meeting, her usual bright demeanor intact. I watched her go, a knot of dread and anticipation tightening in my stomach. Sarah Jenkins arrived precisely at 10 a.m., her presence a quiet, formidable force. We sat in my study, the very room where I had first glimpsed the betrayal, where the cameras had silently recorded the unraveling of my marriage. The air was thick with unspoken tension, the ticking of the grandfather clock in the corner, a relentless countdown to the inevitable. At 11 a.m., as planned, Eleanor's car pulled into the driveway. I had instructed the staff to ensure she came directly to the study upon her return. The moment she stepped through the door, her smile faltered, replaced by a flicker of confusion as she saw Sarah. "Arthur! Sarah, what's going on?" Her voice, usually so confident, held a tremor. The stage was set, the symbolic arena of our final confrontation. This was not a public spectacle, but a private reckoning, a battle for truth within the confines of our home. I held up the silver bracelet, the one I had seen on her dresser. "This," I began, my voice steady, betraying none of the turmoil within, "is not from a friend, is it, Eleanor?" Her eyes widened, a flash of panic. She glanced at Sarah, then back at me, her mind racing, searching for an escape. It's just a gift, Arthur. Why are you being so dramatic?" Her attempt at deflection was weak, desperate. Sarah, ever the professional, interjected smoothly. "Eleanor, we have reason to believe there are inconsistencies in your recent activities." She placed a folder on the desk, its contents a damning collection of photographs and reports. Eleanor's gaze fell upon the top photograph, the one of her and David Thorne, embracing. The color drained from her face. The defiance crumbled, replaced by a chilling stillness. "What is this?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. "This is proof, Eleanor," I said, my voice rising slightly, the years of suppressed pain finally breaking through. "Proof of your betrayal, proof of your lies." The confrontation was not a shouting match, but a slow, agonizing unraveling. Eleanor cornered, tried to deny, to rationalize, to blame. She spoke of my age, my preoccupation with work, her loneliness, but each excuse was met with a calm, irrefutable piece of evidence. The cafe receipts, the phone records, the detailed reports from Miller. The cameras, though never explicitly mentioned, were the silent witnesses, their unseen eyes having captured the truth. She finally broke, not with tears, but with a quiet, defeated admission. "Yes, Arthur, it's true, I've been seeing someone." The words hung in the air, heavy and final. The resolution was swift, painful, and necessary. There would be no reconciliation, no forgiveness with conditions. The trust, once shattered, could not be mended. Sarah outlined the terms of the separation, the division of assets, the legal implications. Eleanor, surprisingly, offered little resistance. The weight of her deception, once a secret burden, was now laid bare, and perhaps in its exposure she found a strange kind of relief. The consequences were immediate and far-reaching. Our relationship, once a cornerstone of my life, was redefined by its end. The mansion, once a shared home, became solely mine again, its vastness now echoing with a different kind of silence. Legally, the process was clean, efficient, and discreet, thanks to Sarah's expertise. Ethically, I grappled with the moral implications of my actions, the surveillance, the deception, but ultimately I found solace in the truth, however painful. There was no graphic humiliation, no public shaming. The focus remained on the narrative of consequences, on the lessons learned. Eleanor left the mansion a week later, taking only a few personal belongings. I watched her go, not with anger, but with a profound sense of sadness for what we had lost, for the years we had shared, and for the future that would never be. The silver bracelet, the object that had triggered so much, remained on my desk, a stark reminder of the fragility of trust and the hidden depths of human deception. It was a symbol of the inversion, the moment my world turned upside down, and I was forced to confront a reality far harsher than any financial downturn. The lessons were clear. Trust, once broken, is almost impossible to fully restore, and sometimes the truth, however painful, is the only path to true resolution, even if it means dismantling the very foundations of your life. The final confrontation, though devoid of violence, was a battle of wills, a clash of realities, and, in its aftermath, A new, albeit solitary path emerged for me. The silence in the mansion is different now. It's no longer the silence of unspoken suspicion, but the quiet hum of a life recalibrated. The cameras, once my instruments of paranoia, have been dismantled, their purpose served. The key, that brass sentinel, now sits in a forgotten drawer, a relic of a past I am slowly, painstakingly putting behind me. The thesis of my story, the lesson I have learned is this: trust, once a foundational pillar, requires truth to endure. Without it, even the most opulent of structures, be it a mansion or a marriage, will crumble. My legacy, once defined by financial might, now carries a new criterion: the integrity of my personal relationships. I have learned that true wealth lies not in the accumulation of assets, but in the unwavering honesty and transparency that underpins every connection. My faith, tested by Eleanor's choices and my own desperate measures, has been reaffirmed in the power of confronting uncomfortable truths, even when they shatter the illusions we cling to. It is a painful process, this dismantling of a life built on a fragile foundation, but it is also a necessary one. The path forward is clearer, albeit lonelier. I'm no longer a bewildered old man, but a man who has faced a profound betrayal and emerged, not unscathed, but with a newfound clarity and resolve. The scars remain, but they are a testament to a battle fought and a truth uncovered. I have learned that sometimes the most difficult decisions are the ones that ultimately set us free, allowing us to rebuild our lives on a foundation of authenticity and self-respect. This journey, though fraught with pain, has taught me the invaluable lesson that true strength lies not in avoiding conflict, but in facing it head-on, with courage and unwavering commitment to the truth. It has been a stark reminder that even in the twilight of one's life, there are still profound lessons to be learned, and that personal growth is a continuous, often challenging process. The quiet solitude of the mansion now allows for reflection, for a deeper understanding of myself and the complexities of human nature. I am no longer seeking answers in the shadows, but finding peace in the light of truth, however harsh it may have been. The future, though uncertain, is approached with a renewed sense of purpose, a determination to live with integrity and to cherish the genuine connections that remain. If my story has resonated with you, if you found yourself nodding along, or perhaps even shedding a tear, I urge you to take a moment to like this video. Your support means the world to us and helps us continue to bring these powerful narratives to light. And please, subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, so you don't miss out on future episodes. In the comments below, I invite you to share your thoughts. What decision would you have made in my place? How would you have reacted to such a profound betrayal? Your perspectives are invaluable, and we encourage a respectful and thoughtful discussion. We have a playlist of similar stories, tales of resilience, betrayal, and self-discovery that I believe you will find equally compelling. You can find the link in the description below. Remember, every story shared on this channel adheres to strict community guidelines. We prioritize narrative integrity, emotional depth, and valuable life lessons over sensationalism or explicit content. Our aim is always to provide a safe and enriching space for contemplation and learning. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Until next time, may your own paths be guided by truth and understanding.